And the problem is, this individual has a Kenwood TK790 radio, and this is one right here. And he has a problem of programming a ham channel to this. And I wrote him back saying you need to do this, that, and the other, but for some reason it's not working for him, and I don't understand quite the reason why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to program one channel, show him through the steps from start to finish as if he just got this gear cold turkey from wherever. The TK790 is VHF radio, single band, and it's a professional grade radio, type 90, and there is no knob here to turn the channels or anything like that. You have to program the channels into this that you're going to use. So yeah, it works on on ham frequencies, and it works very well, but unlike the ham radios, you don't have a freewheeling frequency knob here that scrolls through the individual ham channels. You're going to have to program each and every single one of those channels directly into the memory of this radio here. That's just the nature of the beast of the Type 90 radios. They are not meant to manually program the frequencies onto the radio without using a programmer. FCC rules. So this is somewhat of a semi-modern radio. It came out in the late 90s, I believe, or the mid 2000s, something like that. I don't exactly know when, but it's been out there for a while. This has been out in the field that I know of or have experience with it for the past 12 years, and it's bulletproof. There's a lot of these radios out in the fleet. The firefighting fleet out here, I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of these radios here, one in each vehicle just about, and kind of like a desktop configuration, sort of like this, where this is a Motorola MaxTrack radio. It's a mobile, but it's installed in this kind of custom, well, it's not custom made, it's an aftermarket enclosure with a power supply, and this is the power supply, and it's all one piece. So this is like a desktop for like a office or command post or something like that, and they have those for this model as well. So there are many configurations that you could have with this particular radio, and like I said, this thing is bulletproof. Not just because the firefighters abuse it and it survives or not like that. Actually they take care of their gear pretty good, and within the last 12 years I haven't seen too many of these break. The only thing that I've seen was the knobs. Maybe when you turn a channel, it'll like either not go to that channel or skip a couple of channels. Like the switch here is a little bit intermittent, and you may have to finagle it just a bit just to get it onto your frequency. And also static on the volume knob, where you go to one spot there, and if you move just a hair over, it'll go very loud. And that's just the mechanical aspect of the volume knob here, either getting worn or there's dust in there where, you know, the wafers are sort of what do you call it, getting used. And it's a high usage item, these two knobs here, and those are the first things to break on these, or hardly ever. I think I replaced these maybe 3 times in the whole 10-12 years as this thing has been in service. I've seen the receiver go out on this once or twice, and I've seen the transmitter, and I've seen kind of like the programming or the firmware sort of garbled up where this is useless. It's like your operating system taking a crash, a permanent crash, and I've seen that maybe 2 or 3 times. So you're thinking about 12 years of service that I've seen this out in the field. Thousands upon thousands of radios have gone through my area, and also when I go on fire camps, I see them and service them out there on the incidents. The failure rates are really, really, really low. The tuning of it keeps on track. I mean, it doesn't drift off frequency much. The power levels are still up to par. Hardcore piece of equipment. I love this thing. They don't make them like this anymore. Maybe they do. I don't know about, but That's just an endorsement for this piece of vintage here. And these are coming offline in some agencies where they are being sold on the, or surplus market rather. And if you see one of these, snag it, get the cable to program it, and you'll have an excellent piece of equipment here. I truly recommend this radio for VHF. Single band is not dual band or anything like that, but you could work your way around it for what, $50 maybe for a radio like this to install on your house or in your vehicle. But anyway, let's. I don't have a power source to power this in here, so I'm going to have to use my truck there to sort of program it. So what you see here is a KPG 43, I believe. Don't get me wrong, or verify it on your own. I'm just going off the top of my head that this is a KPG Kenwood programming cable, and one end of it is a serial port connector, and the other one is the microphone jack that you could hook up here. So this radio here is programmed through the microphone jack. A lot of the modern radios now finally have come to their senses, and you could program it through the front radio jack here. But for the most part, all you guys out there, if you have a laptop or a desktop or something like that, the only thing that the modern laptops don't come with serial ports. These guys here. I do on this CF52 Panasonic Toughbook. This is our main programming laptop for all the radios that we deal with, and it does have an analog or this connector on the back there. We don't go through the USB. But Kenwood does sell a serial to USB converter, and this is a Kenwood KCT 53J. So I'm not going to show you how to do it with this here, since a lot of you guys don't have a laptop with this capability. So I'm going to go ahead and go cold turkey with a converter cable here, USB to serial converter. And this laptop here is not configured for that. I used the actual serial port here, so it's going to be like if I'm one of you guys that pick this up and go from start to finish. Okay, so here I got my programming cable, the serial converter, serial to USB converter, and the software for the TK790, which is a Kenwood KPG 44 Delta. And this particular version is the Forest Service version. It's not particularly the Forest Service, but that particular radio is a different firmware. It's the same radio, but it has a different operating systems to have different features than your standard off-the-shelf version of it. I think there's like maybe 3 versions out there. This is not too common. So I'm assuming, and assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups, but there's a way to kind of tell what version you have, and you just got to look it up and maybe call the Kenwood tech support and see what kind of version that you have. But anyway, so I have to use this version software for it, but it's probably identical to yours. So here I'm going to program or attach the USB converter, and it's going to say that it doesn't recognize it, and please install a driver. So went ahead and went through any of the ports here. Device driver software was not successfully installed. I don't know if any serial to USB converter will suffice. This is specifically made for Kenwood, but the least common problems that you'll have is with a converter that has the FITI FITI chipset. That particular converter has the least problems. Not all converters are made the same, and when you're programming radios, your converter might be a bit too slow, or different speed, or something internally that you have no control of go wrong. So, but with my experience, the FITI serial to USB converter there has been the least problematic out there. this is the official endorsed converter from Kenwood themselves. So anyway, I do have the driver located here in my laptop. Maybe you have to search for yours. So here on the screen it says USB serial controller. It's got a exclamation mark, meaning something's not right. So I'm going to go ahead and update driver software. I'm going to browse my computer for it, and I know where it's at. So here in my PC, it's in the folder where it says KCT-53U driver, and it's got all the drivers in there and stuff. So okay, next on that, installing driver software. So the USB converter is installed, all the drivers are updated and all that good stuff. And here under device manager, you see all the COM ports for your particular computer. The serial USB to serial converter is COM port number 17. Remember that, because you're going to need that. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the software programming now. KPG 44 Delta, open it up. I go up into setups, communications port, and they only give you one selection there, COM port 1. So you're going to have to go back and sort of change that last COM port that you've seen there. So COM ports, it only gives you selections 1 through 4. 1 is the actual serial converter in the back there, this connector, and that don't use that. Use one of the other 3. So here I go to where it says COM port 17, where the actual device is hooked up to. Double click on that, go to port setting, go into advanced, and COM port number, it says COM port 17. You could actually change that for something else, and for our uses we could use 3 to 4. So here you see COM port 1 is in use, 3 and 4 is in use by some other thing, I don't know what, but COM 2 is open. Let's pick that and change it. Press OK. Press OK. And that USB to serial COM port now is COM 2. We reassign that COM port to that. Now we could go back to our program. Minimize this. Cancel this and open it up again and see if it registers. Set up communications port, and it does. It's not grayed out anymore. You see COM 2. Click that. I think you're gonna have to do this every time with this program here. It's just a pain in the ass. Press OK, and then you're ready to read and write through your USB converter and USB port. So let's test that out and see. So it's highly recommended to hook up to your radio and read what's in there already. Highly recommended. Do that first thing. First off, that would let you know that your laptop here is talking to your radio without programming this. I mean, if you're just reading, that's not going to damage anything. So you take off the microphone jack, and this is the programming cable. Mine doesn't have the little locking nut there, screw. I just line it up and use my hand to hold it in place. I've gone through too many of these to sort of damage it. But okay, well, like I said, it's recommended for you to read what's in there. Everything is hooked up, radio turned on. You got your software there, that's the Kenwood programming there. Sorry for the glare and all that good stuff. And here on that icon there is read data from the radio. And if you get any activity on that bar there, you're good to go. Read. And it is. We're reading through the USB port on the side there using a serial to USB converter, or USB to serial converter. I never did that on my own. This is the first time I'm doing it. I always use the old technology stuff in the back there, the actual USB, the actual serial port there. Is, for me, I think it's just safer. I mean, if you got too many things going on, like a conversion, you may mess something up, or something may be skipped or missed. So right there, reading completed. So I OK that, and on there is all the frequencies. I'm gonna go to a bullshit group up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and group 4 I have nothing on there. A group is like a zone of frequencies. You could separate this to like X amount of groups out there. This particular radio program only has 3 groups. One for local frequencies. Group number 2 is for special cases, and group 3 is like the statewide firefighting allied agency group for interoperability and big incidents and stuff like that. That's an operational thing. But okay, we got it going on there. So okay, receive frequency. Let's start with that. I'm just going to do one channel, like I said. Receive frequency. Let's do mirrors. But the mirrors, I'm going to offset it 600 kHz because you try to do a ham channel on one of the channels and you couldn't get that offset to go. So 600 kHz off frequency will go lower, so that's 151.8. No, that would be 2800. So 151.2800 receive frequency. Then you tab over to your transmit frequency, and that would be the actual transmit frequency of mirrors. 151.8800. I forgot to put the dot on there. It'll give me an error if I don't do that. And that took, I mean, even though it took on the program doesn't mean it won't take on the radio. But here is somewhat of a representation of programming in a ham frequency. And on the VHF radio band for hams, you know there's an offset of 600 kHz when you're using a repeater. And that's the trouble that you've been going into there lately. So, okay, receive PL tone or CTCSS tone. That's the tone that the repeater is going to transmit to your radio to open up the audio lines. We'll do a standard 1.5. Oh, it's a drop down menu. So let's go 67 Hertz. Encoder, that's the subtone hertz that you need to transmit up to the repeater to open up that repeater for it to function. So that's a drop down menu, and let's pick 94.8. Channel name, ham exam, just name it whatever. Do I want it on a scan list? Sure, so I add it on there. Optional signaling. Optional signaling is firefighter stuff or public safety equipment stuff. You're sending codes and stuff like that. You don't need to concern yourself with that. But you could open up this one little line there. You just line it up like that, highlight it, and down here you'll see channel edit, and that will kind of open up some more settings for that one particular channel. Like for instance, you could do high power or low power, and I think low power is 15 watts. Don't quote me on that, but high power is like 40, 45, 50, something like that. Voice scrambler. Wow, this got voice scrambling? I didn't know that. Okay, I'm gonna have to play with that later. Anyways, and that's your channel. It's in group number 4, and it's the first channel out of that one group. So I'm gonna close it. Now let's see if it'll program. And up here you see an icon, a computer with the arrow pointing out. That's to program it. So let's hit it. Little drop, something pops up. Write data to radio. You say write. Notice firmware installed in this radio program predates this programming software. The following features will not work. Yeah, you'll get that. You could just say OK on it. But if it says something like the firmware is kind of different, overwrite it. Don't do that under any circumstances. If you do that, you're going to mess up the firmware of your radio, and it's going to be dead. So here I'm just programming it, and it's writing. That's going to be on there. Here's the radio actually being programmed as we speak. That's what it'll show. Then it's going to reset itself. So here's my group number 4 ham channel. I'm not going to transmit because that's a MURS channel, and that will be illegal. But as an example, that's what it looks like.